Hey, folks. Today's episode is sponsored by one of my favorite sponsors, sunsetlakesebede.com. And right now, they are doing their special annual Black Friday sale. It lasts until November 26th at 11:59 p.m. East. So that's next Sunday at 11:59 p.m. East. All of their products, every single one of them, 30% off with the coupon code BF. Folks, this is your time to try out things like their different tinctures. They have all sorts of different strengths on that tinctures. They have 3 different flavors on the tinctures. They have some with melatonin. Try it out. See if it helps. Helps you sleep, helps you relax. They also have different smokables. They have keef. They have pre-rolls. They have flour. You've always wondered, what happens if I mix this with some other things? Believe me, it's called the entourage effect. Try that out, 30% off. Also, this is the time for you to try some of their gummies. They have they've brought back their new Vibe gummies. 1 milligram of THC, 30 milligram of CBD. They also have their melatonin gummies. They have their sour gummies. And here's the thing. Orders over $125 will get to choose one free 20-count jar of gummies. So you can get the sleep or the vibes or the sour. Check those out. Also, orders over $250 will also receive a free Sunset Lake CBD beanie just in time for winter. And here's the best part. Well, arguably the best part. 30% off is a pretty good part too. But 5% of all of their proceeds from the coupon code BF is going to go to Planned Parenthood, registered 501c3 that provides reproductive health care services, sex education, information to millions worldwide. This is obviously hugely important as the attack on abortion by the right wing in this country. And we at the Majority Report, we're going to match that 5%. So go check out all of their different products. They're a great company, movement partners. They've donated thousands and thousands of dollars to things like strike funds and carceral reform and refugee resettlement and food pantries. They have great business practices. They have great farming practices. No pesticides in any of their products. They use integrated pest management. Check it out. All products on sunsetlakesebede.com, 30% off with the coupon code BF. And this sale ends on November 26th. It's the biggest of the year. So now is the time to go try out products you've always wondered about. sunsetlakesebede.com. Use the coupon code BF. And now for the show.
The Majority Report with Sam Seder, where every day's Casual Friday. That means Monday is Casual Monday, Tuesday, Casual Tuesday, Wednesday, Casual Hump Day, Thursday, Casual Thurs, that's what we call it, and Friday, Casual Shabbat. The Majority Report with Sam Seder.
It is Friday, November 17th, 2023. My name is Sam Seder. This is the 5-time award-winning Majority Report. We are broadcasting live steps from the industrially ravaged Gowanus Canal in the heartland of America, downtown Brooklyn, USA. On the program today, Heather Parton, columnist at Salon.com, proprietor of the Uber blog, Hullabaloo, will be here to wrap up the week for us. Meanwhile, Biden signs the continuing resolution passed by majority of Democrats in the House and the Senate over the past couple of days. Israel basically blacks out Gaza again, while the UN warns of mass starvation in Gaza. And after the Al-Shifa raid presents very little evidence of a command center, Israel signals it will now attack southern Gaza, where we have at least 1.6 million internal refugees, in addition to the other million that were already there, or 800,000 that were already there. UAW approves contracts at the big three car manufacturers. The GM one was a little bit of a struggle, but they've approved it. George Santos says he won't seek a re-election after the ethics committee basically says he's an incredibly impressive crook. Georgia DA sees the Trump trial running into 2025, and Trump's Florida judge sees that documents case being pushed back further. Pentagon fails its sixth audit in a row. Well done. Supreme Court will not allow Florida to enforce its anti-drag law during its appeal. And FBI raids the home of yet another Eric Adams aide and a ex-Turkish airline official. Biden removes Chinese sanctions, seeking more fentanyl help. And Twitter is losing some more advertisers over Elon Musk's Nazi coziness. All this and more on today's Majority Report. Welcome, folks. Sorry about yesterday. As you know, on Thursdays, I'm off doing errands and administrative stuff and all sorts of other type of things. Emma is usually here, but she had what really appears to be food poisoning because she has no other symptoms. But we decided that while it probably would have made for a very good YouTube clip, the rest of the show would have been very problematic had she attempted to host. So she's doing fine and just resting up. She'll be back on Monday. No probs whatsoever. Thanks for joining us. We will get to the Elon Musk stuff, of course. And the George Santos stuff is pretty impressive. But just one word about Eric Adams. The FBI has his cell phone, and they've now raided the homes of at least a couple of his fundraisers and advisors, and now the home of an ex-Turkish Airlines pilot. And we've shown clips of Eric Adams in a Turkish film, and he was apparently looking to get help for the Turkish embassy. I'm sure a lot of people are the guy was a Brooklyn borough chief. What? There maybe is there a huge Turkish population in Brooklyn? I'm sure there's a huge population of just about everybody in Brooklyn. But this definitely has a quality to it of if one kid, I noticed this in my kids' elementary school. If one kid's going to a camp, all of a sudden this camp gets this random camp in Pennsylvania gets really popular with kids from Brooklyn. And it's because one family went there and they just told another family, and then it just goes on and on and on. It's quite clear that somebody involved with Turkey said, we got somebody here who's going to help us. I'm sure out of the goodness of his heart, but maybe some people might speculate it had to do with an exchange of money. And then they just spread the word through Turkish circles. Hey, if you ever need anything fixed,
business, yeah,
in Brooklyn or in New York, this is the guy you go to. It's really starting to shape up like this. Honestly, somebody please let me know if there's some type of trade sports where I can get involved in voting, betting on the over-under on Eric Adams' length, whether he serves his term out. I find it hard to believe he will, but let's go to this. the latest report in terms of the Israeli aid raid on the Al Shifa hospital, there were, according to Al Jazeera, over 20 people died last night in the ICU. There are about 650 patients there, thousands others who were there seeking refuge under the belief that maybe a hospital would be safe. Israel has claimed that there is some type of command center there. They called it the Metro, supposedly, because there's so much.
I mean, there's reporting that when Israel controlled that hospital in the 90s, they...
Well, let's put up this tweet. We actually have a tweet which has a paragraph from a Tablet magazine article from 2014. The Israelis are so sure about, this is 2014, about the Hamas bunker, however, not because they're trying to score propaganda points or because it's been repeatedly mentioned in passing by Western reporters, but because they built it. Back in 1983, when Israel still ruled Gaza, they built a secure underground operating room and tunnel network beneath Shifa's hospital, which is one among several reasons why Israeli security sources are so sure that there's a main Hamas command bunker in or around the large cement basement beneath the building of number 2 of the hospital, where reporters are obviously prohibited from entering. So they built this. Now, why they built this, I don't know, frankly. My understanding is that you are a horrible anti-human entity if you build these type of bunkers underneath the hospital. But be that as it may, they have not gone down into these tunnels, is my understanding, because they're afraid of booby traps. The stuff that they found up in the hospital itself was ridiculously light, particularly in terms of like American eyes. There are, any random home in half the states in this country.
Las Vegas guys are like, that's it.
Have arsenals like this. So there could, in fact, be, bunkers underneath there. Unclear why they are now not allowing anybody to leave the hospital. They supposedly brought in incubators. Doctors in the hospital said, we don't need incubators. We need electricity. We need generators. We need fuel. Here is Joe Biden, however, trying to justify the attack on Al-Shifa and accidentally admitting what many have been claiming since day one of the Gaza bombing, that specifically it has been non-targeted, non-protective of citizens, but rather indiscriminate. Joe Biden's words, not my words.
We did discuss this, by the way, but we can't let it get out of control. Here's the situation. You have a circumstance where the first war crime is being committed by Hamas by having their headquarters, their military, hidden under a hospital. And that's a fact. That's what's happened. Israel did not go in with large number of troops, did not raid, did not rush everything down. They've gone in, and they've gone in with their soldiers carrying weapons or guns. They were told, let me be precise. We've discussed the need for them to be incredibly careful. You have a circumstance where you know there is a fair number of Hamas terrorists. Hamas has already said publicly that they plan on attacking Israel again, like they did before, do everything cutting babies' heads off to burning women and children alive. And so the idea that they're going to just stop and not do anything is not realistic. This is not the carpet bombing. This is a different thing. They're going through these tunnels. They're going in the hospital. And if you notice, I was mildly preoccupied today. I apologize. I didn't see everything. But what I did see, whether I haven't had it confirmed yet, I am asked my team to answer the question. But what happened is they're also bringing in incubators. We're bringing in other means to help the people in the hospital. And they've given the doctors and, I'm told, the doctors and nurses and personnel an opportunity to get out of harm's way. So this is a different story than I believe what was occurring before with indiscriminate bombing.
Okay. So this is a different story than what I believe than the indiscriminate bombing that was taking place before. And then he mentioned carpet bombing. We give him the benefit of the doubt. He's just talking about carpet bombing in general, not the carpet bombing that we actually saw take place there. I mean, the images are horrible. There's a reason why we are now at, what is it, 70% of the American public is calling for our government to provide a ceasefire. The numbers for Democrats are even higher, obviously. I'm sure we will hear from the popularists that this is the what the administration should be pursuing at this point. We will talk with Digby about, in part, about how this is really, I mean, the implications for Biden's reelection chances, obviously, and in terms of what it's doing in terms of the Democratic Party and the $100 million that apparently minimum is going to be deployed by AIPAC to attack, maybe the half dozen to a dozen squad members. But we will talk to Heather about that in a moment, among other things. First, I know you care about politics, and if you like our show, I think you're going to like Future Hindsight. You know, often we feel hopeless and powerless, like we can't do anything to change the status quo. But what if you could be a strategic player in politics? On Future Hindsight, Mila Atmos shows you just how much power you have and how to use it. Think about it this way. If each of us could just do 2% more than we're doing now, it would transform our democracy. So tune in every Thursday to get engaged and stay engaged. This week, Mila speaks with Theta Scotchbowl about unions. Learn how unions are true laboratories of democracy and why their demise has eroded our democratic culture. Truly a fascinating conversation. Scotchball is a really interesting academic. I think we've had her on in the past. Always worth checking her out. You can find them at futurehindsight.com or wherever you listen to podcasts. Also, we are coming up on the holiday season. Hanukkah, Christmas, Kwanzaa. Gifts are a huge part of Kwanzaa. Nevertheless, what are you going to buy someone for a gift? Well, why not do something that's going to radically change their lives? With over 100,000 five-star reviews, you can see why millions of real pooping human beings already love Hello Tushy Bidet. Every Hello Tushy Bidet attachment comes with a 30-day risk-free guarantee and a 12-month warranty. I'm not kidding. I know a bidet does not seem like the classic holiday gift, but I'm telling you, they will think of you every day of the year, and they will thank you. They will thank you. Honestly, I think like you give somebody a bidet, and it's going to take them 3 months before they stop thanking you. It will change your life. Hello Tushy Bidet's a fresh stream of water cleans your bum 2 times better than wiping. It makes sense, right? You get dirt on your hands. You don't wipe it with a piece of paper. It doesn't matter what you're using in terms of wipes. It's just not as efficient. Using a Hello Tushy Bidet also prevents poo particles from spreading to your hands and everything you touch. Because by the time you go down there and pat it dry with just 20% of the toilet paper you use now, so it's good for the world, frankly, there's nothing left because the water has cleaned you out. And here's the best part. This Hello Tushy bidet attachment requires no electricity, no additional plumbing. If you know how to change out your toilet seat, you can put this on. Honestly, like it's the best upgrade. They say like you redo your bathroom, you can sell your house or your apartment for that much more money. I'm telling you something. Forget it. Own, rent, doesn't matter. This is the best upgrade you can do for your bathroom. Take care of yourself from the bottom up this holiday season. Visit hellotushy.com/majority. Use the promo code majority, 10% off your first order. Don't miss out on their spend and get event going on now through November 18th. That's one more day. That's hellotushy.com/majority. All right, quick break. Be right back with Heather Parton, as you may know her, Digby. We are back. Oh. There you go. I forgot. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. Always a pleasure to welcome back to the program Heather Digby Parton, the proprietor of the blog Hullabaloo. Also, I should mention that Emma is out today, a little bit under the weather. She'll be back on Monday. No big issues. Heather, welcome back to the program. I was just thinking
Thanks
today,
for having me.
Hullabaloo, we must be getting very close to like what, the 21st? I mean, certainly the
21st. We're coming up on the 21st.
21st anniversary. I can't believe we missed the 20th anniversary. When was
Yeah,
that?
it was just this year. It was last January when I started.
Oh, it was in January.
Yeah,
Okay.
January,
yeah. I had forgotten about that. We're getting up on the 20th anniversary of this show. I mean, arguably the 20th anniversary was in February. The first one took place on a community radio show, but as a ongoing venture.
Can you believe it?
No, I can't actually. We have been reading you for 21 years about, I mean, as well as your comments, I guess, when you were at Atrios. But
yeah.
All right, well, let's get into this. I don't know. I guess let's just start a little bit with Donald Trump. And we mentioned this week in terms of Project 2025, which is a document put out by the Heritage Foundation that walks through sort of all the things that should take place more or less on day one or moving forward. Many of which he had already done, but what it really talks about, and including to like suspending posse comitatus, what it also talks about is the professionalization of this. Like the first Trump administration was sort of like amateurs going about their authoritarianism and the fascism, but it really does feel like now we're ready to come back and do this competently. I know you wrote about this and his sort of like his upping the rhetoric. Talk about what you think is happening in that accord.
Well, I think Trump, I don't know about him personally, because I don't know, Trump's about Trump. I mean, he cares about himself, and his agenda is retribution. It's revenge. He's going for payback. That's what he's doing. And that will be it. He wants to restore the luster of his reputation as the biggest winner that history has ever known, the reputation that he made. However, he's gathered around him now people who actually have other agendas and who are there to actually do something. And they've now understand the instrument that is Donald Trump to get that done. And that is not just, I mean, yes, there are the people around him like Stephen Miller and, Jason Miller and Boris Epstein and, the crew that we're familiar with. But now the whole institutional foundation of the Republican Party is behind this now. They have now decided, and I wouldn't base it, I'm sure K Street is there too, although we haven't heard a lot about that. But I have no doubt that they're involved in this to some degree. The think tanks are where we're talking, Heritage being the number one seems to be putting together this, Agenda 2025. And there are several aspects to that. One of the biggest ones is that the professionalization of that is just that. They are putting this in the hands of people who are preparing to implement their plans. It's not just, we're going to put out a white paper and, this is what we want to do. They're actually getting the steps in place to do it. And what they want to do, of course, and I'm sure people have heard about this, what they want to do is find a way to fire civil service employees, get rid of anybody who is not a full-fledged Trump follower, and turn the entire executive branch into essentially a patronage operation, where it's just, these are jobs for you, the good Trump people, you will go in there and do that. And of course, that fits the agenda of the Republicans' longstanding agenda of basically, drowning the government in a bathtub, as Grover Norquist used to say. So, they had...
It's funny you mentioned Grover Norquist, because I remember he was one of the few people who were as explicit about this in the run-up to the 2016 election, which was, I don't care who it is. We just need somebody to be able to sign the legislation.
Somebody who can hold a pen in their hands. That's all he said.
And what we have moved, though, from I think the legislative branch of the Republican Party understood the value of Trump in that respect. But now there is we're coming in and we're doing all of to the extent that we have our version of civil servants, because that's almost like an anathema to the Republican Party. They don't want there to be civil servants, no. but they do have, people who are expertise at bureaucrats, right? I can't remember his name from Oklahoma now, but the first FDA or EPA chief, Scott, what's his name?
What's his name?
His experience was all in suing Scott Pruitt. His experience was all in suing the EPA to inhibit the EPA's power, and then he became head of the EPA. They're getting people in like that who are familiar with the workings of government, who can come in and really fully accomplish the deconstruction of the administrative state.
That's right. I mean, that the deconstruction of the administrative state, of course, was a Steve Bannon thing. And, you can't really underrate that guy's influence here. I mean, he seems like he's sort of a gadfly out there podcasting all day, and he is. And he is a gadfly in many ways. But a lot of this sort of, intellectual underpinning of this, chaos agenda of his is coming to fruition within the Republican Party. And, you have to really understand, this isn't Trump anymore, really. I mean, this is now the Republican Party. This is their institutional infrastructure is now putting itself to the task of accomplishing what it always wanted to accomplish through this new method, this MAGA method of doing it. And, it's extremely disturbing. However, let me just point one thing out. And I think I may have mentioned this to you before, but I'll say it again because I think it's important to remember this. During the Iraq War, you remember the coalitional provisional government?
Yes.
Provisional authority. They were going to send in, the whole idea is that we're going to remove the whole governing structure of Iraq. And what we're going to do is we're going to put in new people who are going to create this beautiful Jeffersonian democracy in Iraq. And we're going to help them. Remember, they were always spouting that stuff. That was the whole neocon vibe,
Yep.
remember, was just, we're not hurting these people. We're making their lives better. We really are. I mean, the dead, it's a shame, but, really in the end, they'll thank us for it. And they demanded that the Iraqis thank them for it. So they sent in all these people into to man the CPA, to start up everything from, new infrastructure projects to a new government to a new stock market. They had everything that they were going to do all this. Well, I know anybody who's, been around for the last 20 years remembers that it was a complete and utter disaster. It was a total debacle. They ended up sort of, huddling in, like 2 or 3 Quonset huts in the middle of the green zone in the middle of Baghdad, and never really got anything done, and it ended up being just a complete bust.
And it was all like 22-year-old interns.
Well, that's what I was going to say.
Right.
It was the heritage. It turned out nobody could figure out how they could go so wrong, right? I mean, come on. America doesn't have people who could actually do this. I mean, they helped rebuild Europe after World War II. I mean, come on, what's going on? Well, as it turned out, it was another patronage operation. They found the people to do this through resumes that the Heritage Foundation dug up. And it turned out that the main qualification was their adherence to, right-wing ideology, particularly, things like if they were pro-life or not. That was really important for the person who was putting together the new stock market in Iraq. And they were like 22, 25-year-olds who had never had a job before. They were had been interns at the Heritage Foundation. So I just mention that because I see the same thing here in their minds, that they're going to do the same thing. They want to put in their people, right? And they want to put in good Republican ideologues in there. But think about who the Trump voters really are. Think about the kind of people that you're going to find that are going to, want to go take some, mid-level job at the EPA. I mean, these people don't know how to do anything. And I'm not sure they even know how to destroy things. Now, it's possible that they will go in there and just do nothing. They'll just let it all go to hell. I mean, that's a thing that they can do. But I'm just, if there's any grand plan to create something out of this, and I'm not sure there is, because a lot of this, as Steve Bannon, has made clear, is just chaos agent stuff. They're just going to, just wreck it all and then, I don't know, rise like a phoenix out of the ashes. But I do think that the idea that the Heritage Foundation and these Republican think tanks, this is not a group of particularly competent people, which may be worse because in the end, chaos and instability, it may be the worst thing that could happen.
I mean, from the perspective of deconstructing the administrative state, putting 50,000 as they want, there's 40,000, I guess, employees essentially that they want to remove their civil service. Getting rid of 40,000 civil servants and just putting in, a cardboard cutout is all you really need to do, right? I mean, you're losing all of the institutional memory. You're losing all of the institutional competence. And then it's just off to the races because all of a sudden people aren't getting their checks from the ag department. They aren't getting their Social Security. They're not getting, the water's bad. I mean, you're off to the races at that point because you've achieved what you want to achieve, is turn the government essentially, if not against people, the people against the government because it's not effective. And
It's not working. Yeah.
no, it's not. It's simply not working. And the idea of it being, this now, like this sort of the agenda being completely farmed out into the institutional aspects of the Republican Party. We interviewed Andy Kroll, who's now at ProPublica, about his Leonard Leo piece that he co-wrote with a couple others, we should say. And this is the guy who essentially has remade the judiciary in this country over the course of the past 25 years. And he's now got, people forget this, he's got $1.6 billion, is it, that was bequeathed him in his organization to do the same thing, but with the culture. And this is a guy who has now all of these relationships within the legal apparatus of the Republican Party. But that's the name of the game on that side. And he's just going to do this in the context of, these organizations like Heritage, like the Claremont Foundation. Claremont Foundation, incidentally, has been probably the primary source of all the think pieces on why we don't really need a democracy. We need a religious Caesar. I mean, all of these things are sort of like in the ether now. And it's, I used to say this during the Trump administration was, I don't know if we're at where we're at is like a full-on authoritarianism and fascism, but we would never necessarily need to pass through where we are today to get there. And
good point.
We're getting closer. Like, we're passing through all the things you would need to get to that point.
Absolutely. I mean, we're definitely passing through all that. And, any American, one thing people need to really realize is that when you think about fascism, we think about things like, obviously Germany in the 30s, Italy, Pinochet, Franco in Spain, there are examples of fascism that we're familiar with. American fascism will be different. Let's just face it. It's not going to look like that. It's going to look different. And we have to use our imagination to see how that might be. The fact that we have a TV reality guy who had created an entirely false persona his entire life that was then turned into a TV character, essentially, that really made his second fortune. People have to realize that, Trump was pretty much broke. When they came along and created The Apprentice for him, and The Apprentice made him rich again because with all the branding and he had all the products. He turned into Jessica Simpson basically, or some celebrity selling products, and a lot of people liked it. And there are a lot of billionaire celebrities. Kylie Kardashian, or Kylie Jenner is one. That just because of their name they do it. That's how Trump made his money. So it's that fame / money / glamour thing in American fascism that is going to be very different. And Donald Trump embodies that and makes that work for us. So everybody needs to that's an aside, just keep that in mind as we watch this thing unfold. But the basic fundamentals are the same. And what you say is absolutely true. There's a transition from one to the other. It's not just an abrupt, we're not having a military coup, in other words. That's not happening. We're just gradually becoming this new American fascist state. And what we're seeing here now in this election coming up is the sort of presentation of what exactly they have in mind in terms of actually doing things to benefit the same people that, of course, they were always going to benefit, and what fascism often benefits, which is, their, sort of quasi-populist base, and then the, obviously the corporate, big money people who are, bankrolling a lot of this. Now, Leonard Leo, the interesting thing about that, I thought the other day, and I wrote a little piece about it, within the Trump orbit, there's a new guy. His name is Russell Vought. He's been around for a while. And he's kind of been running a lot of the real Trumpy stuff, he's, kind of keeping the MAGA extremism alive within the sort of Washington. He was some kind of congressional, I can't remember what specifically his job used to be, but he's been around for a long time. He's emerged as kind of an intellectual leader of the MAGA movement. And he is, interestingly, an enemy of Leonard Leo and thinks that the Federalist Society and Leonard Leo have gone way too soft. Way too soft. They've
Way too soft.
Soft, yeah. They're way too soft. They're squishes. The courts didn't step up to keep Donald Trump in office the way that they were promised to do. They were supposed to be his, Republican puppets. And they didn't do that. They didn't do what they were supposed to do. And so there's a movement within this. And, look at the Congress right now. You can see the outlines of the kind of fighting that's going on within the Republican Party, that this is kind of happening within the MAGA movement. So just to add that in as a little bit of a complication here, not that it's a good thing, it's a horrible thing because it's between bad and worse, but nonetheless, this kind of churn and instability in this whole thing is leading to, I think, chaos in a bunch of different directions that we haven't really anticipated before.
And I think we would be remiss not to just add one more element to this. I don't think it's unclear whether it was Sinclair Lewis who said this, but the quote has some resonance. When fascism comes to America, it will be wrapped in the flag and carrying a cross. Mm-hmm. And, we do have probably arguably the most powerful, but certainly at least the second most powerful theocrat we have ever had in our government today.
No doubt.
Is Speaker of the House. I mean, this is a guy who's a full-on Christian nationalist. I mean, there's no arguing about that. He's doing a very good job of his lying for the Lord right now in terms of he realizes, we need to sort of tone this down at the moment. But the reason why he's getting the ability to tone it down, we just saw a continuing resolution passed with majority Democratic votes, which of course was the thing that ostensibly got Kevin, I can't even remember his name now, McCarthy. Yeah, Kevin McCarthy booted. Well, the reason why Mike Johnson can get away with it for at least now is because they all know who he is, and they don't have the same suspicion of him when he does that as they did with McCarthy. When Johnson does it, Johnson's doing it because it's part of a longer term plan to essentially, bring in that Christian nationalism and full on, right wing agenda. But it is fascinating what's going on in the House. At least you wrote about this. They're literally we played the clips earlier this week of Burkett getting shoved in the back, and then him implying that maybe Nancy Mace has some dirt on Kevin McCarthy that is specifically Mace centric. I don't know how else to put that. We saw a senator attempt to challenge a union head to a physical fight, I guess presumably on the in the hearing room floor. And here is we never played this clip of Comer losing it in a government oversight committee hearing because a Democratic Congressman, Moskowitz, raised the notion that Comer's entire sort of falling apart narrative on Hunter Biden or the Biden crime family was centered around a $20,000 or $200,000 loan that Biden gave to his brother. And Comer had the exact same thing, except for this supposed loan went, I think, the other direction. And Comer was actually in office when he was doing this, as opposed to Biden, who was out of office at that time. But here's this exchange.
I'm happy to yield you some of my time today, Mr. Chairman, because I think you owe it to the American people to explain why you've gone on Fox News and told people that while the president was out of office, he had a loan with his brother, and in a way they were evading taxes. It has come out in the public that you also do business with your brother with potential loans. And so since you have framed that and manipulated that with the American people, that Joe Biden did something wrong when he wasn't in office, I just would like to know if you would like to use some of my time.
I would love it.
Okay.
You retweeted that story. Completely false. I've never loaned my brother one penny. My father, who was a dentist, had some farmland. He died, and my brother couldn't afford. He wanted to sell it, but he wanted to keep it in the family, so I bought it from my brother. That story that you tweeted also said I had a shell company. That is bullshit. You can come to Monroe County and look at all the land that is titled in that LLC. I think that the problem is, the White House tried to get CNN to write that story. They went around and investigated all this bullshit that Ian Sams is trying to tell people that only dumb, financially illiterate people pick up on, and said that it was a shell company because it was an LLC. They're so financially illiterate that you think because something says LLC, it's a shell company. This company, which I financially disclose, has properties, okay? It manages over 1,000 acres of land for hunting purposes. It owns different
I'll pause it for 1 second. I just want to say, let me tell you what's involved in managing hunting, land available for hunting purposes. What's available is almost nothing. All you basically do is maybe your buddy calls you and says, "Hey man, I just wanted to let you know, I'm gonna, okay, yeah, just don't forget to park where the truck is, and I'll just, make sure that I don't tell my other friend to go hunting on that day so that you don't shoot each other." But go ahead. The LLC is helpful for that.
Of land for hunting purposes. It owns different properties. I'm one of the largest landowners in my home area.
What?
Okay. I went to the bank and I borrowed money and I bought that land. I didn't get wires from Romania, China. My family doesn't get wires. Okay. Never loaned my brother money. Don't have an LLC. But you and Goldman, who is Mr. Trust Fund, continue to try to
reclaiming my time.
No, I'm not going to give you your time back. We can stop the clock. You all continue to, you look like a Smurf here, just going around and all this stuff. Now listen,
Mr. Chairman, hold on. If we're not on time,
disinformation.
You have gone on TV and said the president did something illegal. You're doing stuff with your brother. The American people have the same questions. Why should they believe you? Why should they believe you? Why should they believe you? There's a different rule for the president. There's a different rule for you. Why should they believe what you're saying, Mr. Chairman? Why? You go on Fox News and say loans and deals are a way to evade taxes. We don't know that's what you're doing or not. We don't know. We have no idea. We're supposed to take your word for it. But when the president
you've
says
already
something,
been proven a liar, Mr. Moskowitz.
What's that?
You've already been proven a liar.
Who's proven me a liar? You?
Yes.
Your word means nothing, Mr. Chairman.
Go to my hometown. There's a camera crew there today, an opposition research crew there today.
Mr. Chairman, this seems to have gotten under your skin.
I'll pay for your ticket.
I think the American people have lots of questions, Mr. Chairman, and perhaps you should sit maybe for a deposition.
I will be happy. I will sit with Hunter Biden and Jim Biden, and we can go over our LLC.
That'll be great. I'll make sure the ranking member is happy that you'll sit at a table.
Mr. Chairman, I make a point of order that we should return to regular order for the benefit of the other members.
The ranking member makes a good point.
I'll reclaim my time, Mr. Chairman. I'll wrap it up quickly.
All right, I think we don't need any more at that point.
Oh boy. Well, this is
Are
very
Smurfs
interesting.
still a thing? I don't know. Like, are there Smurfs anymore?
I think they did do a movie like 10 years ago. So.
Oh God. The thing is about this, and this, what you have to understand is the context is that what Comer has been out there saying that because Joe Biden's family, not him, but his brother and his son and various people who were sort of, invested in the business had a bunch of shell companies. They were all shell companies, but they were running, and the implication, although he hasn't come right out and said it, but he's pretty much said it. The implication is that they were laundering foreign money through these shell companies to pay off Joe Biden to deliver for the Chinese and the Russian or the Ukrainians and whoever else that he's
presumably if he ever gets back into office.
Pocket of. If he ever got back into office someday, then maybe they could get this payoff. Okay. Well, the truth is he's going on and on there in that comment about how his shell company, the hunting, he's got an LLC and it's a perfectly legitimate LLC because he has hunting land. All the businesses that the Bidens had are also legitimate companies.
Of course.
They went and looked at them. They weren't shell companies. They're people working. They've got offices. They've got websites. They've got everything. It's not just some made up thing. By the way, there is someone who has a lot of shell companies, and his name is Donald Trump, and he's on trial right now for some of that activity. So, this is completely ridiculous. And what Comer is saying is just, it's not borne out by the facts. This land swap thing that he did with his brother is very, very much in line with, the kind of shady activity that people do when they're trying to avoid taxes and gift taxes and things like that, inheritance taxes. This is what we're talking about. So he went off on Moskowitz there, who I thought, and he has tweeted some very amusing stuff about Smurfs since then, by the way, that they're really funny if anybody wants to look. And Comer is determined to, spread this innuendo about the, Biden and his family and his son. We all know what that's about. And in fact, this is all in service of this ongoing impeachment inquiry that they're doing, which now is going full steam ahead. They can't fund the government. They can't even get a spending bill to the floor. They spent all week fighting amongst themselves, elbowing each other in the kidneys. What was it? Clean shot to the kidneys that Burke had said. He got a clean shot to the kidneys. And, this guy, Mark Wayne Mullen over in the Senate, threatening to he not only threatened the Teamster president, said, let's, come on, you ready to go, get your butt up and all that stuff. He's been all over TV and he's saying stuff like, I don't just hit, I bite. So apparently he is threatening to bite the Teamster president. This is the kind of lunacy that's going on. And yet they cannot get any spending bill. They can't get it to the floor. It's not just that they can't pass it. They cannot get past the procedure to actually get it to the floor because either the moderates are rebelling because it's some draconian freak show that they don't want to be responsible for, or, of course, most of the time it's the Freedom Caucus members who feel like it's not draconian enough. So, there's 12 days left in the year, left in the session for the year, and then they come back and this whole thing's going to happen again. They will have accomplished nothing because they can't do anything. But what they can do, apparently, is they can impeach Joe Biden. And that is what they're going to be working on. They've now subpoenaed Hunter Biden, James Biden, president's brother, and a business associate of theirs by the name of Walker. And they've been subpoenaed to come and appear like week after next. Walker's going to appear, and then right on the heels of that, it'll be James and then Hunter. Of course, this will be a big TV show. We'll all be watching, get out the popcorn. And this is what they're going to do. Now, Mike Johnson, the theocrat, who, Mr. Morality, has made it clear. I mean, in private closed door session at one point, he was reported to have said, maybe we don't need to do the impeachment because Joe Biden's already been weakened enough and maybe we don't need to do it. But Jim Jordan and the rest of them, they're determined. They want to do it and they need their show and they need to get their Fox News hits and do all that. So they're going to do it. And Mike Johnson is now behind it. He put out a statement saying it's been proven, it's been shown that, Joe Biden is correct. The shell companies, he brought that up again, which is a total red herring. And it's been shown to do all these things. And so now we have to go forward. So essentially, these Republicans believe that somehow it's in their interest to fail to do any kind of governing at all, pass a budget, but the impeachment of Joe Biden will, somehow work to their advantage. And maybe it will. I mean, I don't even know.
I actually think it's going to be the opposite, frankly. I think the best thing that could happen to Joe Biden at this point is for them to move forward with this impeachment stuff. I mean, and then here's Representative Chip Roy from Texas. And
he's mad. He's real
mad. This is, I can't imagine this will not be in 200 ads across the country, in the fall for House members. Some may not have to run TV ads because they're running unopposed, in the general election. Who knows? But this is Chip Roy from Texas, 21st District. Republican.
For the life of me, I do not understand how you can go to the trouble of campaigning, raising money, going to events, talking to people, coming to this town as a member of a party who allegedly stands for something, allegedly stands for reducing spending, allegedly stands for eliminating debt, securing the border, strong military, ending the wokeness that is killing and corrupting our schools and our kids, and then do nothing about it. One thing. I want my Republican colleagues to give me one thing, that I can go campaign on and say we did. One. Anybody sitting in the complex, if you want to come down to the floor and come explain to me one material, meaningful, significant thing the Republican majority has done besides, I guess it's not as bad as the Democrats. Because that reminds me of the line from Patton when he said, you won't have to say, I was shoveling crap in Louisiana. Because
I don't remember that. I assume he's talking about a movie, not actual, he hasn't read any history. But I guess the idea is I don't want to be here. And at least you can say, I'm not doing something that is theoretically worse. Like I'm in prison or something in Louisiana. I'm not sure about the Patton thing, but let's not get distracted by that. That is a great ad for Democrats. But let's just put up, I was just curious as to the different legislation that Congressman Roy has put out there, just to get a sense of what that would mean if he actually was to get some of his bills passed. Is that the top one there? It's providing, making appropriations for the Department of Defense. Okay. The FACE repeal, COVID Origin Transparency Act, veterans access to direct primary care. I don't know what's in this, but that sounds pretty good.
Sounds good. Yeah.
He introduced all these.
It's probably privatizing the VA.
Exactly.
Higher Education Reform and Opportunity Act. Does that prevent people from getting college debt relief? Expressing the sense of the House of Representatives that the majority of NATO members have failed to meet their defense spending commitment, and the United States should not continue to subsidize the security of the countries that, I don't know, he needs to come up with a catchier name for that. No taxpayer funding for SARS Act.
A throwback there?
Yeah, expressing the sense of the House regarding the relationship between certain obligations and NATO. Impeaching Joe Biden, that's one. He wanted one. Let's see. Passport Sanity Act. Reciprocity ensures streamlined use of life-saving treatments act. I don't know. I mean, he's been busy. But no ESG at TSP? What does that mean?
It's no, woke investing with the thrift savings program, and it's no wokeness in mutual funds.
There you go. I mean, he's been, the Sister City Transparency Act. I'm sure that's some type of anti-immigrant.
I looked into the Passport Sanity Act, and would you be shocked to find out that is about the reversing the, I think there was a Hillary Clinton era decision which allowed people to be unspecified gender on their passports.
That's insane. That's insane.
He's a very serious person. But you know where Chip Roy, you know what his previous work, he was the chief of staff to Ted Cruz. That's where old Chip
What
comes
an office,
from.
jeez.
Yeah. And I mean, he's mad, by the way, that's not all that he's mad about. He's mad about Mike Johnson allowing this. He's mad that they allowed the continuing resolution, the temporary continuing resolution to pass. He was on the steps of the Capitol yesterday, I think, and Marge Green, she came by and put in her 2 cents, saying that this is it. This is Johnson's last hurrah. They gave him one pass, and that is it. They're not going to stand for this anymore. So, what he's basically saying is, you're on notice.
Shut the government down next time, or it ain't
they're going to shut the government down. And if you don't shut the government down, I mean, basically, he was threatening him, saying, we're going to take you out like we took out McCarthy, because they did take out McCarthy ostensibly for the same reason that he had, of course, there was all this bad blood, and Matt Gaetz and had all these issues with McCarthy. There were many reasons why McCarthy went down, but that was ostensibly the reason, was that he was going to pass a continuing resolution with more Democratic votes than Republicans, which is what just happened.
I mean, I wonder if they're going to be able to amass the same numbers this time around for Johnson, because, Burkett was upset, really, apparently, because McCarthy made fun of God.
Right. They all had their petty reasons.
Yeah, something. And Nancy Mace sounds like she had some very Kevin McCarthy specific issues with Kevin McCarthy.
Apparently. And she also does whatever she does. Nancy Mace does whatever she does is purely for attention. And in fact, there was released this past week, another interesting little tidbit, some notes and directives from her office, which for her staff, which apparently they hate her, that everything that she does is about getting on television, every single thing. And she says this blatantly, this is what I do. So whatever she needs to do to get attention, she will do. And being a member of the Crazy Eight really did work for her. Everybody knows who she is now.
Totally. I hope she's on the Kristen Sinema trajectory, and by this time next year is a green is left the Republican Party for
could be.
I mean, it would be nice to see, a Green Party member of Congress. I think that's where they should start anyways.
Yeah,
so if it's Nancy Mace, it's Nancy Mace. I'm not sure where this leaves us. I guess we have like some type of reprieve, at least holiday, federal workers don't have to go through the holidays on some type of furlough or something like that. Of course, the anxiety that they have and the inability for our government to do anything, you can't do long-term or even midterm or short-term planning if you don't know if the government's going to shut down for 4 months starting in January or February. Like, how do you go out to contractors? How do you go out and start programs? How do you hire, I don't know, you can't fund daycare centers to the extent that we're doing that anymore. And have them say like, well, you may not have funding come,
right,
February,
we can't guarantee anything.
I mean, it really is a disaster. But
look at what's going on in the Senate. I mean, with the military hold. I mean, this guy, Tommy Tuberville, and his wingman now, Mike Lee, they are turning the whole thing into chaos over there. It's as bad as Chip Roy and the rest of them, and Nancy Mace and Matt Gaetz in the House. And this is the governing of the Republicans. You have to wonder if the American people are paying any attention, which I don't blame them if they're not, because it's just so awful. But if they are paying attention, what are they seeing here? I mean, this is, I'm sure some of them are getting off on it. The hardcore MAGA people love this stuff. This is Trump's America. But, anybody who's still halfway sane has got to be looking at this going, my God, these people are, they appear to be acting like children. I mean, they really do. It's a case of massive arrested development.
It's going to be interesting. I wonder how much this resonates with the American public. I mean, I suspect at the end of the day, when we get in terms of, from an electoral perspective, it still ends up being, I think abortion rights is still your primary thing. But we're talking, what are the implications marginally for congressional seats? At the same time, I don't know that there's been a period of time where Joe Biden's ability to beat Donald Trump, particularly in the context of third party candidates, has ever looked more tenuous than it does today. And it's hard to imagine it could look more tenuous than this. Obviously, it could
look more tenuous.
Yeah, well, yeah, no,
I mean, it could be it could be worse.
But relative to just how bad the Republican Party looks, that's what I'm talking about.
They've never been worse. Yeah,
no, they've never been worse, and it's never been more explicit. I mean, like I say, we just have Chip Roy on there going, "Give me one reason, one thing I can campaign on." It's 12 months out from an election. I got news for you, buddy. It's not going to get any easier between now and then. And
things always lock up in the last year anyway.
Totally.
And they have done, the first year is when you in a Congress is when you get something done.
100%. And
of course, keep in mind too that these people don't seem to know how they really need to see the little, how a bill becomes a law, because he's saying, we were sent here to do things. Well, they had a 4-vote majority in one house of Congress. They didn't have the Senate, they didn't have the presidency, and the mere idea that they were making these over, the top promises to their people that they were going to get things done was always ridiculous. The best they could hope for would be to,
everybody does that, and they also all basically say, we did our job, and then the Republicans in the Senate didn't
They'd have something
job.
to run on. They could say they could have something to run on.
Exactly.
That's
but,
it.
and like I say, Biden looks tenuous in that respect. And who knows? It's still a long time away. But, and the least important thing, it seems to me, about what the U.S. is doing in terms of supporting Israel's actions are the political fallout. I have a lot more sort of moral and humanity, humanity issues associated with it.
Sure.
But it's certainly not helping him politically in any way. No. I don't think there's ever been a huge constituency that is terribly relevant that would punish him for saying ceasefire, frankly. But be that as it may, a subsidiary question of that is AIPAC has announced they're going to spend $100 million. And that's not including the DMFI PAC and their affiliated PACs in trying to oust maybe 10 Democratic representatives in primaries. This is all to basically say, to send a message to everybody else. This is a disciplinary action. Premier Jayapal, it was reported today, I think, was in with Hakeem Jeffries saying, you got to do something here. And by do something, that can be stuff like, and certainly the Democrats in the House have done this before. If you work with any type of challengers, we're going to put you on the blacklist like we did before. And this is a crucial period of time in terms of Democrats taking the House, because there's a good chance they lose the Senate. Like we say, it's a tenuous situation with the presidency. It's sort of a weird type of dynamic where they could actually win back the House, and they could win back the House, it seems to me, by 10 seats even. Yeah. And so what's your sense of what Hakeem Jeffries is going to do? Because this is a very hard thing to read. He doesn't have, he needs, he probably wants the majority in a way that, maybe Pelosi could have been hey, 2 years in, 2 years out. I mean, who knows? Obviously she wants the majority, but he doesn't necessarily have the power to push back on, his number one funder is I think AIPAC, if I'm not mistaken. What happens here?
I don't know. I didn't know that about Jeffries, that his number one funder was AIPAC. That
pretty high. Let me get this specific.
Complicates things substantially. look, this is now, we're in a really kind of a binary choice in terms of American politics. Taking the Israel and Gaza situation out of it, which is intensely, difficult and complex, politically speaking, in America. It's not morally complex, I don't think. I mean, to me, dead kids are dead kids. I don't care whose dead kids they are, they're still dead kids. And I just see that's very clearly, for me, it is morally very easy for me to look at that situation and see right from wrong. Ceasefire is obviously required. There's just no doubt about it. Now, when you look at it, the political analysis is much more complicated in the United States. The polling shows, all kinds of things. The Democrats and Republicans are kind of split in a weird way. It's very difficult. Having said that, if you look at if AIPAC is going to be going specifically after Democratic politicians and saying, we're going to do this if you don't toe the line, they are making a choice that they are now basically a Republican lobbying operation, and they are now affiliated with the party that is explicitly aligned itself with fascism, and even more specifically with Nazism. Now, Donald Trump was out there talking about vermin, and maybe he thought he was talking about hippies or something, but I would think that AIPAC would understand what the resonance of that and understand who they are aligning themselves with. The Democrats have to understand this, and they've got to recognize what's happening there and realize that this is not, when it comes to American politics, there is no, there's no such thing as aligning with fascism and being our friend. That just can't be. That simply can't be. So my view is pretty clear on this. I don't know if the Democrats are probably not seeing it that way. They've got a lot of people in the Congress and around the country who are very traumatized by what happened on October 7th and are traumatized by the anti-Semitism they're seeing around. That's a different concern. AIPAC is something very specific, and they are backing, essentially, by doing this, by saying that they're going to do this and trying to manipulate this situation, are saying that we're going to back Donald Trump and his fascist MAGA movement, and that's basically what they're saying. So,
well, first off, AIPAC doesn't care. They don't care about that. They donated to 106 Republicans who voted, to decertify the election. The dynamic has existed in terms of Netanyahu going and looking for support from right-wing fascist political parties in Europe. He's been doing that for over a decade. You can look at it like, why is John Hagee speaking at an supposed anti-Semitism rally? I mean, this guy thinks that Hitler was bequeathed us by God to bring about the return of the Messiah by getting all the Jews to go to Israel. I mean, that's not, he's no friend of Israel, of Jews in that instance, maybe a friend of Israel. But Hakeem Jeffries, top 5 PAC contributors, 2022. And maybe you could pop this up. I mean, this is what's really disturbing in terms of this dynamic, because they knocked off a couple of progressive of Democrats in the last round. Top one is, scroll down. Top one is Pro-Israel America PAC. That's AIPAC. That's his top contributor. The next one is Vote Sane. I think that is just a general PAC. But NORPAC is, in fact, a promoting the U.S.-Israel relationship, nonpartisan group. And then American Israel Public Affairs Committee is his 4th biggest contributor. And Paul Weiss et al., I'm not sure who that is.
That's the law firm that Jeffries used to work at prior to being in Congress.
So, and I don't know if they're one of the people who have rescinded offers, in the news as of late. But I mean, you can get you get the gist here. This guy's own personal political fortune is very tied up, in money from AIPAC and affiliated organizations. I mean, it's really, there's been times in the past where he's sort of paid some lip service to when they went off of Ilhan Omar. The only upshot about this, the only one upshot, is that with AIPAC coming in this hard, if the squad members and squad adjacent can withstand these primary challenges, what it does is it completely undercuts the power of AIPAC, because their whole thing is, watch what we did to them. We could do this to you.
We can do it to you, right?
It's the Fonzie effect. He had to punch one guy once, and then everybody thinks that he's, the tough guy, just to drop a reference that is probably older than 90% of the audience here. But
Fonzie?
Yes, sadly. But I don't know, you know what I'm talking about, Digby. But
I know, yeah. I mean,
does.
I'm old enough.
But if they can overcome this, then all of a sudden it sort of like destroys the proof of concept, as it were. And so this could be a seminal fight. I mean, it happened with the Democrats and the NRA too.
In fact, that's a really good point. That's a really good point, because that's what happened, was that the NRA wielded tremendous power over numbers of Democrats. And when they actually stood their ground and said, recognized that they had to take a stand, it worked. And the NRA no longer has that influence in the Democratic Party. It hasn't yet made the difference that it needs to, but it not for lack of trying from the Republicans, from the Democrats. I mean, the Democrats are actually pretty united now on that issue. And this same thing could happen. And it's not, this isn't really about, this isn't about, deciding that the U.S. can't ever support Israel. That's really that's beyond the scope of this particular thing. This is about a very powerful lobby wielding outsized power in the Democratic Party while it's allying itself with the other party. Which is the same thing the NRA did. Very, very powerful thing to do, and it is truly toxic to Democratic politics. And I think you're right. And I think these progressives who are, being targeted this way, I think they have a good chance of surviving.
I think
the dynamic right now, I think the dynamic in the party right now is, this isn't really about money in the sense that AIPAC can throw a lot of money at these folks, but this issue is bigger than that. And it is more personal, I think, to people.
One more, just like word on this. So Greg Kazar, who is undoubtedly one of the people who are going to be targeted, as soon as this was announced, he came out and his office released a paper that basically said, bring it on. 80% of my constituents, disagree with you on this. But what AIPAC has done in the past, and what the MFI has done in the past, is they don't necessarily go all in or even at all with making it about Israel when they attack these progressives.
They might not
They
even
come
mention
in
Israel.
on something else, whatever they perceive as to be the vulnerability. The Israel stuff, they don't even necessarily deploy that because they don't want it to be about that. But this type of stuff, it's horrible. And frankly, also, there's never, obviously, I say as a Jew, any justification for anti-Semitism. But there are things that I think when there are accelerants that can exist, and this type of stuff, going in and dumping this kind of money for an agenda that would be at the very least inexplicit, let's put it that way, not helpful. Not helpful.
Not helpful. And you've got, to me, AIPAC, and, we've talked about AIPAC for, they've been outsized influence. I mean, they took out, what was her name? Cynthia McKinney. Remember her?
No, you're thinking of, it's not McKinney. They took out Donna Edwards.
Right. Donna
It
Edwards.
was Donna
This is
Edwards
just, you know, a
and
very mainstream Democrat, by the way. Not a, you know,
and
a
Levin,
progressive.
I think in Michigan,
Mhm.
they took Andy Levin rather
Andy
in
Levin, yeah.
Michigan.
Yeah, I mean, they've been extremely, they've had this kind of outsized power for a long time. But, you know, we're at a point now where the choice is so stark and people have to, you know, this has to be made explicit within the Democratic Party. This has to come from within the party itself. They've got to, you know, what AIPAC is doing is they are basically, and you can just put in the current context, they're backing, you know, Bibi Netanyahu. I would take, it's not Israel, it's Bibi Netanyahu and
Right.
his agenda and what he is doing, which means that they are also, you know, betraying the many Israelis who at this point and before wanted to get rid of Netanyahu. So there's plenty of people who are not, you know, going along with the AIPAC agenda in this way. And the same thing in the United States. They are aligning themselves with Netanyahu and Donald Trump. Now, Democrats who, you know, have got to understand that that's not okay. That is just not okay. And you know, if they do this kind of stuff, if they continue to do this kind of stuff, they're going to break apart the unity that the Democrats have surprisingly had over the past few years in recognizing the threat that's coming from the right. And that means we're sunk because that's the only thing we have. So, you know, here we are.
Heather Parton, Digby, folks, check out Heather's work in salon. What is it? 3 times a week. And at Hullabaloo, digbysblog.com daily. Heather, always a
7
pleasure.
days a week.
Thanks
Thanks
so
for
much.
having me, Sam. Good to talk to you.
All right, folks. I think we're going to head into the fun half. What do you think about that? Folks, reminder, it is your support that makes the show possible. You can become a member at jointhemajorityreport.com by going to jointhemajorityreport.com. And when you become a member, you not only get the free show free of commercials, you get the fun half. You also get access to IMing us. You also allow us survive and thrive regardless of, you know, we're going to make videos that are going to get demonetized because, you know, I wouldn't necessarily always want to advertise next to, like, you know, when we're talking about this carnage. I don't care about that stuff. The things, there are times you get more demonetized than others and less than others. And, you know, we don't look at that stuff, frankly. I get an email and I don't even open it. I just see from the top of the thing.
You
Who
don't
cares?
screenshot it and then run straight to social media and act like a giant victim to promote yourself?
No, I do not. It would involve way too much effort, frankly. But it is because of our members. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what we do or don't do or what we say or this and that. It's our members. And frankly, there's enough of you so that no individual one can actually influence us. Or even 10 of you, with all due respect. I haven't had this happen in a long time, but there was a time early on where I get an email from somebody who's like, I'm going to quit my membership unless you do X, Y, or Z. And there was nothing more fun for me than to fire someone from being a member of the show and saying, I'm going to, if we ever get technology, I'm going to prevent you from even hearing the free show. But you certainly, and I would just go and cancel their membership.
Block their IPs.
Yeah, they don't have the technology to do that. I'm sure we do have the tech somehow to do it, but I don't know how to do it. But there's nothing more fun for me than firing a member. But with that said, I want to encourage you to become one. Also, justcoffee.coop. Another great gift for people at the holiday is coffee. And what better way to give a gift that you can feel good about? The company represents all of your values. It's a co-op. They're really helpful for their farmers that start off by, helping Zapatistas and or in the Zapatista region, I should say, farmers. But it's a co-op. Great stuff. JustCoffee.coop. And you can give the majority report blend, or you can give others. Maybe somebody likes Mark Maron. I don't know why they would, but you can give them the WTF blend. But they also have a bunch of other type of coffees. Check it out. JustCoffee.coop. Ice cream's so good. Sam, I've started listening to y'all exclusively on Rumble since the YouTube ads got to be so disruptive. If anyone else wants to come over, we can finally get double-digit view counts over there. Yeah, check it out on Rumble, I guess. We figured out, like, we got to talk about this. How we, we'll figure it out. Emma's out today. Bradley, what happened the last time on ESPN?
Well, because Emma was out yesterday, we posted our picks of the week for Week 11 NFL action on our Twitter account at ESPN Show on Twitter, and you can check out our Monday show where we talked about the Week 10 NFL action as well as the Edmonton Oilers and the NHL in free fall to start the season. YouTube.com/ESPN Show to check out that stream and some clips if you'd like to catch up, and we will be back on Monday.
Matt, Left Reckoning.
Left Reckoning, yeah, David and I this week went... Actually, go subscribe. We are 92 subscribers on YouTube, short of 30,000.
Whoa!
Most recent video, David and I getting into Candace Owens' problematic turn to criticizing Israel, basically because she wasn't defended by her Jewish colleagues when she wanted to defend Kyrie Irving, Kanye West, and that Hitler needed to just keep it in Germany. Patreon.com/Left Reckoning, but go subscribe to the YouTube channel.
We'll put a link to that in the podcast and YouTube description. Left Reckoning over there. Holtenheim, we'll read 1IM. Sam Seder, being a crazy old man rambling about firing subscribers feels like we launched into the fun half before the music hit. Love it. Just be careful. See you in the fun half. Left is best. Jamie and I may have a disagreement.
Yeah, you can't just say whatever you want about people just because you're rich.
I have an absolute right to mock them on YouTube.
He's up there buggy whipping like he's the boss.
I am not your employer.
You know, I'm tired of the negativity.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to upset you. You're nervous, you're a little bit upset, you're riled up.
Yeah, maybe you should rethink your defense of that, you fucking idiots.
We're just going to get rid of you.
All right.
But dude, you want to smoke this joint?
Yes.
Do you feel like you are a dinosaur?
Some good shit.
Exactly. I'm happy now.
It's a win-win.
It's a win-win-win.
Oh, hell yeah.
Now listen to me. 2, 3, 4, 5 times. 847-906-501-457-238-56-27. 1/2. 5 eighths. 3.9 billion.
Wow.
He's the ultimate math nerd.
Don't you see?
Why don't you get a real job instead of spewing vitriol